Hello, 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 everyone. I am now live and I am talking about COVID and the communities. Welcome to the Weigh In. I just want to say welcome. I'm trying to go ahead and get live and I want to make sure I give people time. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh, Relaunching my YouTube channel here from my home, doing our quarantine, and I want to make sure that I'm, really getting into this topic and definitely want to make sure that I'm doing what I want to do. I initially relaunched my launched my channel back last year. Really pushed starting a topic or the title of a channel called The Weigh In, and I lost my way along the way. So I'm coming back with The Weigh In. The whole purpose of The Weigh In was to have a platform where we could talk and just really assess things, good, positive, bad, in the communities. Not necessarily to be negative, but just discuss how it's affecting and change and things like that. So definitely want to talk about that. And so as I'm waiting for just a few minutes or a minute or so to allow people to kind of get in here, just want to make sure that I'm giving everybody a chance. Let's see. I'm just going ahead and getting my link out on my other platforms, and we're gonna keep talking. All right. So again, like I said, I started this channel and lost my way along the way, and so I wanted to make sure that I get back to the root of things that I started. So really want to just kind of get back in here and talk about it. So like I said, tonight's topic definitely is going to be COVID and the communities and how that's affecting our community. Just going to adjust my camera here. There we go. And how that's affecting our communities and what we can do or what should we be doing as a community moving forward. And I'm not going to be on here very long. Just want to keep it a short, simple, but effective conversation. So again, chime in. If you don't watch it while I'm live, feel free to join back in and let us know or let me know how you are. Also, on this platform, I can add anybody in. So if you have any comments or anything, you can leave it in the comment section, and or you can join me live if you feel brave enough to go ahead and view your opinion, but you'll be in the live feed definitely. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that. All right. So one of the things I want to go ahead and bring up and discuss tonight is how basically we look at this pandemic, COVID, and how it is affecting or have affected our communities and what that looks like. Now, for each community, of course, you're going to see different avenues and things and what effect looks like. It doesn't look the same everywhere on every race or every people. But just, as a rough start, what does it look like in our communities and how are we taking it? Are we taking it serious and what are we doing? One thing that I personally have seen as we go through COVID is that I notice that some people are taking to it and some people are not. Sometimes you really kind of see people get lost in kind of where they feel with it. And I can understand that because I too kind of had mixed emotions about how I felt about it. But one thing that I do know, I don't feel that we as people, and no matter what community, different community, but I don't feel like we are taking it as serious as we can. And of course, we don't know everything about it. And I know everybody has their different opinions about what that looks like, but we don't know what it looks like. We don't know how strong COVID is affecting us or our community. And we keep seeing people saying they're sick, and we keep say people that are dying and all these different things. And, I guess it doesn't really hit until it hits home. But when you go out, we have all these different health advices and things, but we keep finding out that not people, but the medical industry is telling us one thing, and then they go back and tell us another thing. And I understand that they're learning about this virus too. So they don't know everything. They go based on what they know and what it looks like at the time. But how can we as a community do better in what we're doing to make sure that we are prepared and are protecting ourselves, our children, our youth, our elderly? How are we going to move forward? So one thing I know that I noticed is that due this time, I've been making sure for myself that I've really took quarantine serious. I didn't get out unless I had to. I didn't get around people unless I had to. Going in the store, in and out. I washed my hands and did sanitation and things like that pretty well. But what I've been doing is make sure that if I was washing my hands before and after every little thing I did, I'm double washing them now, and I'm sanitizing even more. So, how is that looking in the communities? Because honestly, I was flying in the time that they started locking cities down. I was out traveling, and in the airport, here at DFW Airport in the Dallas area, I saw people walking around with masks on their face, but using the restroom and not washing their hands, touching stuff. And that was when it was very fresh. It was very new. It was way more scarier than it probably is, in some parts of the nation right now, due to the fact that people just didn't know how to move, how to act or whatever. So definitely want to look at that and how we are, thinking moving forward. I know it's hard to kind of remember all of the advices that they're giving us, but one thing you want to make sure is that, we do take heed to warning. And I know, biblically, the Bible always says there's warning before destruction. If you don't want to be destructed, you got to take the warning. And that's something you got to think about when you are moving forward. All right. Another thing about what I also want to, make sure that we talk about is, and I want to make sure I say this right. We got to think about how do we teach our kids and our youth to do the right things when we ourselves are not doing those things that we teach our kids. A lot of times we come up under the influence of do as I say, not as I do type of thing. But our youth in this day and age are way more impressionable than we were, in my opinion, back then. We got to think, how do we take our youth, show them the right decisions to make, do the right things, even though it may not be what we want to do. And I see in this particular time frame, that's a hard thing to do. A lot of people don't want to do what's not comfortable. They don't want to feel like their rights have been taken away. And I get it. We all want to live the way we live. You want your freedoms, you want certain things. But how do you particularly want something if you're not showing them, hey, even though I want it, it may not be the right thing to do. So I'm just thinking about, like when we saw the pandemic first, really hit big here in the United States, and you saw so many people flooding to Miami and on the beach. That alone was a clear sign of, and it was a younger generation. I mean, it really was showing the gap in how we think, what I'm saying? And you got to remember, this generation really hasn't been in any major situations. And I have to take that into account. We had the recession back in 2008, which a lot of this younger generation was very young then. So they didn't really understand it. Before that, there was, 9/11. And prior to that was Y2K. And prior to that, whatever. So this generation really has gone a good while without seeing something that was so affecting to the world that we live in today, or even the way that we live today. And that's something we have to take into account. So as we move forward, how is COVID affecting our community? And what do we look at when we talk about COVID and the community? How can we still deal with COVID moving forward? Because there is a new normal. I mean, it just is what it is. How do we move forward with COVID and our community? What can we do better to teach our community how to thrive, how to be safe, but still live as close to normal as we can? How do we do that? That's the questions that we need to look at in today's time. How do we do that? And when we're doing that, what does that look like? What does that look like when we're talking about um, moving forward, living close to normal, going to school, church? I mean, these are things that are truly being affected in our normal lives. You've seen, people getting in trouble for having church. You've seen, people getting sick, just because they want to live their normal life. So COVID in the community, like, what are we going to do to bridge that gap? Because it's going to be like this for a little while until we get a grip on it. What are we going to do to bridge the gap between COVID and the community? And honestly, guys, I don't talk about COVID at all. Like, I kind of steer away from it just because I'm so tired of hearing it. But how do you not talk about something at least once on a platform that is so relevant to today? So I started out relaunching, talking about what's going on, because I'm not going to make this a big topic every day. We may touch on it, but I want to move forward. So COVID in the community, how do we move forward? How do we continue to do what we do? We have to think about that. I mean, there's religion, there's, safety, there's, so many ways we can say moving forward, but we have to make sure that all those different intricacies bridge together. How do we bridge all those things together to make them happen and to happen well? And that's something we need to think about moving forward. How do we protect our elderly? Making sure we're not exposing our elderly to the virus, being that a lot of our youth or younger people are asymptomatic. And I know growing up, I stayed with my grandparents all the time. I couldn't leave their house. So thinking, if I put myself in that place right now, that'd be a very scary place to live, a very scary place to think about. I don't know if I'd be ready for that. Not for sure about that one at all. So I can very much see how the youth, has a mixed feelings about what's going on right now in their everyday life, and how that may adjust or change what we're doing. So we want to definitely think about that moving forward. And you want to think about, as we move forward, how can we make sure that if and when something like this happens again, and there will be other times we will have issues, maybe not this big, maybe even bigger. How do we take that and move forward? How do we take that and make sure that moving forward, we've taught our community, our people, our kids, our elderly, how to be prepared, how to follow directions, but still live as close to normal as possible, how to be content in a quarantine. I mean, that's things we haven't had to do probably in the last couple of decades. Not in my lifetime, certainly. This is the first time, maybe small communities and areas, but not a whole nation. So how do we find comfort in solidarity? How do we find comfort in our homes? Those who are very social and extroverts, I mean, they're not okay. People who could not cook, who were, don't know how to cook, and now they can't really go get nothing to eat. We're not okay. The kids were not okay. The elderly who couldn't see their family, or the sick who couldn't see their family, they were not okay. So our community was really crying and suffering. And a lot of what we see is a cry for help. I mean, it's a cry for help, but it also exposed something very big. And I want to really make this clear. It exposed mental health issues. It exposed the weakness in our mental health, and how we are not mentally healthy. And when something like this happens, how quick our mental goes down: depression, anxiety, schizophrenic, suicide. It's real. It's very real. And we need to make sure we always think about our mental health moving forward. So again, on the way in, COVID and the community, whether you're watching live or whether you comment after, how can we move forward in our community with COVID and the community? How do we move forward? What could we do, even if it wasn't COVID, if we had another pandemic, if we had another epidemic? How do we make sure that moving forward, we are more prepared, we are more ready as a people? And we can't blame everything on the president. And I'm sure a lot of people will start there. And he's one person. But remember, he's one small part to a big puzzle. Yes, he's the head of our nation, but y'all got to remember, our local governments and state governments have a lot of power and could have and should have done more, regardless of what our president did. So how do we move forward? What is this going to look like? And how do we prepare ourselves even better? All right. So we just took a couple of minutes to weigh in. As I said, I wouldn't be here very long. And since I haven't had a lot of questions or interactions, I'm not going to hold you. But I want you to think about that. And I'm hoping that this video reaches the right people. And I hope it starts a conversation that needs to be had. Because we have to think about, what will we do if COVID is not resolved? How will we move forward if COVID is here to stay? And what will our communities do to be prepared and to make sure that we are doing the best that we can as we go forward in our lives, and to try to have some sense of normalcy. All right, I've been here with you today. And again, I hope that you share this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and comment for me. I would greatly appreciate it. And share this video and get it out there for me, because this is a conversation that needs to be had, and we're starting here today. All right, guys, again, I appreciate you all for your time. And make sure, again, you have this conversation within your local communities and your things. We can sit here and talk about it to each other all day, but if we're not putting in the actions where it needs to be within our local communities, then we're not doing the right things. All right, you guys have a great night, sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite, because know that in the morning, everything will be all right, because we know the God that we serve. Y'all have a good night.